Yeah, he didn't play. He just kind of had it. It was in the closet for, you know, decades, and yeah, it was just it was there, and I didn't have a guitar, and
Our podcast is about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new record you have coming out. What is it, next month on the 16th?
yeah, that's right.
Awesome. So first off, where were you born and raised?
Well, I was born in Silver Spring, Maryland. I grew up mostly in West Virginia, kind of in the Eastern Panhandle, a little area. Martinsburg is kind of the bigger town in the area that I was in. It's about an hour and a half from DC, but it's kind of the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia.
Oh, right on. And how did you get into music?
Well, I kind of started playing in um, kind of garage bands when I was a teenager. Kind of started playing guitar when I was about 14. My dad had a nylon string classical guitar in the closet that I sort of taught myself power chords on, and
Sure.
I um, yeah, started band with some buddies when I was about 16 or so, and kind of just kept starting bands through my early 20s and started going on the road a lot. Started playing with a string band when I got a little more into songwriting when I was I don't know, around 18 or 19, and started playing with a string band around then, and we'd play in some bars, and we'd go out and busk in DC a few days a week to try to earn a little money. And yeah, just started traveling a lot and never really looked back after that.
Wow. You talked about learning guitar at 14. Prior to that, like your dad had a guitar. Did he
Yeah,
play?
yeah, he didn't play. He just kind of had it. It was in the closet for, you know, decades, and yeah, it was there, and I didn't have a guitar, and I wanted to teach myself how to play. Eventually put a hole through the top of the thing and kind of put it back in the closet and kind of covered my tracks a little bit. But
Whoops.
yeah, but yeah, nobody in my family really was was musical. And just sort of I just sort of started gravitating towards that a whole lot when I was about 13, 14, and kind of started listening, like actively trying to listen to stuff that wasn't on the radio, and like just seeking out music rather than just kind of hearing it and listening to it.
Was there like something or somebody that, started that for you? I mean, going from the radio to seeking out to seeking out music, I'm sure there had to be some sort of like bridge there to like, or was there not? Like, how did you find
Yeah.
out about bands that weren't on the radio? I guess is my question.
Well, I kind of got in with a group of friends that were sort of into punk rock kind of stuff, and they kind of turned me on to some bands, and then like it kind of, it opened my eyes to there's this whole world of music that, isn't I guess it was my first exposure to something that wasn't in the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was pretty hooked from there. And then every time I get a CD or a tape from a band, I'd look in the liner notes, and back then it'd always be like a laundry list of other bands that they played with, and
Sure.
um, you know, friends of theirs. So I kind of followed the web of bands through album liner notes and got into a whole lot of stuff that way.
It's amazing. And at 14, you started learning guitar. And how quickly did you start trying to play with people? Like, were your other friends playing guitar or drums or anything like that when you were growing up?
Uh, yeah, we kind of had a pretty cool, you know, DIY small town scene thing going, and it was kind of uh, a handful of people trying to do the same thing, kind of playing guitar and trying to learn. And I ended up it was a couple of years before I actually started feeling like I was good enough to start trying to play with people. And We it was me and my really close friend James. We started a band with a bass player and a drummer who we sort of kind of knew, and they were like in jazz band, and because and they were some of the um, only people that we knew that really could play bass and drums.
Yeah, jazz band. They must have been pretty good, I would assume.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was an interesting combination because we were kind of trying to start a rock and roll band, and like we were all learning about different stuff. And uh but yeah, we started just kind of putting on our own shows, renting out Ruritan clubs and church halls and stuff for like $50 a night, and putting flyering our school, and trying to just play shows for our friends and stuff. And from there, we kind of realized that there's all these other towns, within an hour or two of us that were kind of doing the same thing. And so we trade shows with other bands and kind of started doing a little regional circuit.
There's quite a few little areas you could hit from where you were, right? I mean, DC's close, Baltimore, I'm sure, and like I don't really know too much about that little triangle there, but I know that there's probably a lot of places you can get to.
Yeah, and we didn't really go out to any of the bigger cities when we were that young. It was mostly like small towns, but we would go to see shows all the time in DC and Baltimore. That was kind of the closest place to see like touring bands.
Mm-hmm.
And we there's like Hagerstown, Maryland, and Winchester, Virginia. We're all within a half an hour of us. And Pennsylvania is just across a little strip of Maryland there from us.
Mm-hmm.
And just a whole string of small towns with kids trying to play in bands. And it was super cool. I kind of fell in love with the whole like DIY community, doing it that way. So
That's awesome. And then from there, like, were you in other bands? Like, when did you start playing as just John R. Miller? Was that years later?
yeah. So yeah, after a couple of, it's actually many years after that, I played in a couple of bands that I'd started with buddies in my 20s and did some touring. And kind of when those fizzled out for one reason or another, and people kind of going and doing their own thing or settling down, I kind of started just playing bass for people for a while. And got a lot of touring gigs as a bass player, and really enjoyed that. And I learned a whole lot too.
Just jumping on in with other bands, like as a touring bassist, like if a band needs somebody to go on the road.
Yeah, and I mean, it was I did a lot of that sort of like case by case stuff, and then I was like in a couple of bands as a bass player. And that was kind of my main gig for a number of years. And I was still writing songs on the side and everything. But I didn't really start doing it with any seriousness, if you can call it that, until a couple of years ago. Put out a proper record and like tried to start doing it. I kind of just ran out of band names, so I started doing it under my own name.
Okay.
I always felt weird about like when I started these bands with buddies and everything, like when I always felt weird about I don't know, like restructuring the band. Even if it was technically my band, I felt weird about restructuring it and then keeping the same name. So we just like stopped.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I just ended up doing it under my own name, because that way people can kind of come and go. But we've got a pretty steady band for the last few years. They're great.
That's cool.
And, yeah.
And so you put a record out in 2014. Was that the first one that you released under your own name?
Yeah, it was kind of it's just pretty much just me and guitar, and I played some upright bass on it. But it was more of a just sort of collection of demos. When I was trying to sort of hustle gigs and stuff, playing just bars and things on my own in between bass gigs and, restaurant jobs. I was, just trying to hustle a little bit. And that was, feel like I needed something to be like, hey, I'm a real person. I play music. Can I play your bar? Here's my CD. And so it's more of a collection of demos kind of than a proper record, but it's still out there for better or worse.
Sure. So would you say like the first proper record would be the second one that you put out then?
Yeah, that 2018, The Trouble You Follow. I did that one in a buddy's home studio, pretty close to where I grew up, and had a bunch of friends come in and play on that, and that was the first like full band thing that I'd done under my own name.
Oh, okay. So you just hired? Did you hire people, or you had a band together that you?
Yeah, it was
using?
it was kind of a collection of people from around the area that I played with over the years, music buddies and everything. And Chloe, my partner, who still plays in the band, she was on that record as well, and she's the only one that's still playing in the band, but everybody else pretty much back in West Virginia. I'm down in Nashville now.
Oh, really? My family and I just moved to Nashville as well.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, in March. So we're in the area.
Cool. Yeah, I moved here like 4 years ago. Chloe's been here longer than I have, but I moved here about 4 years ago, kind of just sort of fresh start, and easier to get, sideman gigs and stuff around here.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine. A lot more going on here as far as music goes, which is amazing. We love it here.
Yeah, it's pretty great. We're up in Madison.
Okay. We're south of you. We're down near Franklin, so
oh, cool.
Opposite direction of you. But yeah, we love it. So awesome. So you moved to Nashville. Was that around the time when that record came out, or were you already living here when that record came out?
Yeah, I was living here when it came out. I was kind of like in the process of moving when I made it.
Okay.
It was kind of a last, like, I'm gonna make a record here before I leave sort of thing, and so sort of took it with me, and started playing in Kentucky a whole lot. Found a lot of really nice folks there that let me come and play and everything, and got to know people around Lexington pretty well, and that kind of became new home base. And that's all the rest of the band, the guys that we play with regularly, they live in Eastern Kentucky.
Oh, wow. That's still not that far, right? Kentucky from here. I don't know. I'm like geographically right now, I don't really know my bearings yet because we haven't had a chance to really travel, but I feel like you can get to like Georgia pretty quick in a few hours. I'm from Southern California, so like anything aside from like Los Angeles is like 50. I mean, to get to San Francisco really is like far, yeah. It's like 8-9 hours. I mean, it's crazy how many states you can drive through here in the span of that time.
Pretty drives though, if you got to drive for 8 hours, you can pick worse places to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the coast route.
yeah.
If you go inland, it's not as pleasing, but
sure. But yeah, Kentucky, the Lexington's like 3.5 hours away, and most of the band's around 4 hours from us. So
right on.
We get up there a lot. I've seen a lot of the Eastern Kentucky Parkway,
Sure. When you put that The Trouble You Follow out, did you guys tour on the record?
Yeah, we kind of did a little, like the first like sort of tour that we tried to do, just me and Chloe and an upright bass player, just kind of real stripped down sort of thing. Just sort of ran around in a minivan for a little while, and Chloe and I played a lot of duo shows together before we kind of had a steady band going.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we've been playing with the same group of guys for the last few years.
That's cool. And I mean, recently you guys re-signed with Rounder Records,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome. I mean, that must be a
Yeah,
pretty cool thing to
pretty,
happen.
pretty crazy, man. I kind of couldn't believe it. It just sort of it happened. Yeah, we went and recorded this last record um, in January of 2020,
Okay.
and kind of got it done just before everything shut down.
Lockdown.
Yeah. So my initial plan was just to self-release it and kind of do things independently the way that we've always been doing it. And we kind of had an opportunity to sign with Rounder and put the record out with them. Uh, yeah, it's pretty wild to me, I'm still kind of learning how all this works.
That's cool. Like, what was how did that relationship start? Did they like seek you out, or and then did this all happen over the course of this like pandemic?
Yeah, it kind of did. Their their A&R guy, Mark Williams, had somebody when the record was being mixed. Justin Francis, the engineer and producer, the way I heard it was he was mixing it, and someone in the studio overheard it and passed it along to Mark Williams, and Mark reached out to my manager, Ian, and started talking to him, and it turned out they sort of knew of each other previously. And then they started talking, and then they he was interested in finding us a home for it, and it worked out. We talked, everything moved pretty glacially last year, but we ended up working it out, and yeah, now here we are. It's gonna come out next month.
Wow. So you put the whole record together. It was ready to go prior to everything shutting down. I'm sure did you have big plans? I mean, as far as like, were you guys going to tour the album? Like, how did the virus kind of stop you?
Yeah, I mean, I my plan was just to kind of do what we'd always done, just self-release and do tours, kind of self-book kind of stuff. And like when we kind of saw the writing on the wall that we weren't going to be traveling for a little while, I adapted to being at home pretty quick. And I didn't think that, I would, like anybody, no one really knew what was going to happen or how long or if ever we were going to do it again. So I was just kind of taking it as it came,
Mm-hmm.
We were very, very fortunate that we were able to find it a home in that span of time. But
That's amazing. I mean, for something to shut down the world and stop everyone in their tracks, to kind of be able to come out of it with a record deal, especially signed to like an iconic label like that. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but I'm very, very grateful and pretty excited to see how it all goes.
So with aside from putting the record out, are they putting you on a tour? Like, do you know what the future holds as far as being on the label with them?
Well, yeah, we have a booking agent now, and we're going to be doing some touring. We're going on the road for about 3 weeks next month, just doing kind of the Southeast and a little bit of the Midwest. And yeah, we'll probably, as we can, we're going to try to tour as much as we can. I love traveling. That's kind of part of the reason why I wanted to do this with any seriousness. It gives me an opportunity to see new places and meet new people, and that's very exciting to me. And I've never really, the novelty of that hasn't worn off for me, which I think I've pretty much resigned myself to that lifestyle. So yeah, we're just gonna tour and try to make the most of our time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you approach this record any different than The Trouble You Follow, or is it like, where did you record it in? Did you say you recorded it? Oh, you didn't tell me where you recorded the new one. You
Yeah,
recorded the other one in West Virginia, right? That
yeah,
was the one.
yeah.
And then where did you record this new one?
This new one we recorded at Sound Emporium, which is down, is pretty close to Belmont down there,
Okay.
south of town. And it's Jack Clement's old studio. It's been there for decades. Some really incredible records have been made there over the years. And my buddy Justin Francis, who's he like I said, he engineered and produced the record. He's an incredible engineer, and kind of picked the room and everything. We kind of talked about it ahead of time. And my other buddy Adam Meisterhans, who I had played with in bands in West Virginia, he's been down here longer than me. He played guitar and also helped to produce the record. And
Oh, cool.
they've worked together a lot in the past, and really, like, they make a great team. So this was the first like really intentional like studio record that I ever put together. So, just sort of saved up money from touring, and when it was time to make the record, I wanted to have the experience of going in and doing it in a studio setting. And kind of did it with mostly the road band and a few other guys that came in and did some extra stuff. But yeah, it was definitely much more of an intentional effort than maybe has been in the past. And we tracked it all live in about 3 days.
Wow.
So yeah.
And I mean, obviously it paid off, right? To do it that way, I mean, now you got a record deal, especially with
Yeah.
Rounder Records. I mean, it's massive.
I guess it did, it's even a blind dog finds a bone sometimes.
What was it like getting the call saying that they were interested?
uh Yeah, I don't think I really believed it at first. I'm I try not to get too excited about things, sort of, I guess maybe as a defense against disappointment or whatever.
Sure.
Um, so I told myself that I wasn't going to get pumped about it until, the ink was dried and everything. So I was trying to be real metered about it. But also, like, it was such a weird time to get that kind of news. I was just like, I don't even know what this even means anymore, like,
Right.
like, all right. But yeah,
Was it like a Zoom call, like meetings like this? I mean, I can imagine it must have been pretty strange since
yeah,
it
it's
was in the midst
pretty,
of all this.
pretty weird. Had a couple of Zoom calls. I'm still trying to get used to Zoom. I could probably count on 10 fingers how many times I've actually like been
Logged on.
on Zoom. Um, I'm still getting used to that. But yeah, it was all digital communication.
Sure. That's cool. Well, the record's coming out next month. You said you're doing a 3-week tour. Are you excited? I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ready to get to traveling again. I think most relaxed when moving around. I get a little fidgety at home, even though I've gotten quite used to it.
Yeah, exactly. Have you had a chance to perform at all in the past year and a half?
Yeah, a little bit. We did a couple of sort of one-off gigs, just sort of trying it out. And for the most part, we just kind of stuck to being at home and occasionally rehearsing with the band, just to kind of make sure that we were still together.
Mhm.
But yeah, probably like 3, maybe 4 gigs. And we're just now kind of starting to do a few more. We did a little festival in Kentucky a couple weekends ago.
Oh, cool. What was
Yeah.
that like? I mean, there's probably a handful of, oh, if it's a festival, I'd assume there's a pretty good amount of people there.
Yeah, it's a smaller kind of festival. It's a Laurel Cove, and it's the second year that they've done it. And yeah, really great folks putting that thing on. And it's kind of it's growing, and that was the first time that I'd like seen a bunch of people in one place in a long time. So it was
Right.
pretty overwhelming at first, but yeah, it's pretty exciting. I think everybody's pretty excited to be around live music again, and I know I am.
Definitely. And I can't wait to hear the record. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, John. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. I have one more question before I let you go. Do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
Yeah, just you just keep doing it. Like don't quit. That's pretty much the only advice that I can offer. It's that's really all there is to it. You just do it until you can't do it anymore, and then you do it some more,
Bringing it backward.